Welcome on in, everyone. Before we start, I see there are plenty of you in here, and many of you are rightfully candid, upset, angry, whatever emotions that you have crossing your mind are probably warranted. But before we start, again, even in moments like this that are very negative, Matt and I would love for you guys to subscribe to the channel, like the video, again, give us some support when our team isn't doing it for us. Um, we appreciate every single one of you that are in here right now. Get everything that you need off your chest. Comment on it. I'll try and pick up as much as I can. I've never seen so many comments in our section prior to live recording. And I'm going to try and do my best to convey my feelings of the entire tie, what had happened tonight, and specifically in this second leg, what players to blame, who not to blame, who I was. I'm not even going to go as far to say proud of anyone, because it's just a disaster. It's like when coffee is or red wine is just spilt all over a bride's dress. Like, sure, it's over at that point. Like, nothing matters. Like, you could be happy you got married, celebrate the rest of your life. Your wedding dress is ruined. Your entire day is ruined. The entire event. I mean, what is there to say? If you guys had watched the last episode of the podcast, you heard myself really go on a rant towards the back end of it and getting really frustrated with a lot of the players and holding these players to a higher standard. And it was in moments like this in today's tie against Feyenoord in the Champions League second leg, where Milan had an opportunity to advance to the next round of the Champions League. Not only that, help themselves within Serie A to help boost that UEFA coefficient that they so desperately need because they have been so awful. There was so much on the line, not only for Milan, but for the rest of Italy. And Milan did nothing but embarrass themselves, embarrass the fan base, and embarrass the entire country of Italy. It is really disgraceful to see this type of performance in a moment that is so important, not only for the club, but for everything else I had just mentioned. It is excruciatingly painful to watch, because immediately we talk about where Milan need to come out with great energy on a consistent basis, let alone today. Milan come out with fantastic energy. They score within the first minute. All is well. They are looking fantastic. Feyenoord really have nothing to work with. They're not even advancing the ball whatsoever. Their chances were very limited on counterattacks. We get on to halftime. The second half is where it all falls apart at the seams. And I had tweeted before the match. I had said Mike Maignan, Rafael Leao, Theo Hernandez, the three players that I look and point to where I say you guys are the last, besides Matteo Gabbia, of the winners of that Scudetto winning year. The last key players and the ones who are supposed to step up when their backs are against the wall. And over the course of these two legs, not just to discuss today, Milan were not good enough. They were nowhere near good enough. Those three players were nowhere near good enough. We'll start with that first leg, right? Mike Maignan makes a costly error that lets Milan go down 1-0. Milan, on top of it, with all their players, looked absolutely lethargic, no energy whatsoever. Don't care about the weather. All 22 players played in that weather. Wasn't a problem for Feyenoord. They did their job. Then we go to the return leg. Mike Maignan able to shake that off, right? Theo Hernandez, Rafael Leao, what are they going to be able to do to make up for what happened in that first leg? Rafael Leao looked like a bat out of hell. He was fantastic to start that game, and I thought he did a good job, all things considered. I'm not pointing the blame on him for this leg. I'm not pointing the blame at quite a few players for this leg. But it is increasingly more difficult to ignore what this man had done today. Really, just the most embarrassing performance that I can recall from a said top player for this club. When you're talking about expectations, what you need from your leaders, when they're supposed to show up in the biggest of moments, when they're in a contract year, 1 year removed from a contract year. So he has 1 year left after this. Refusing to leave when there's sales opportunities to come in from Como. Not signing a contract extension yet for whatever reason, whether the club didn't offer one or anything. Theo has the most to lose out of everyone here in this team. In my opinion, there have been disgraceful performances for over a year and a half now. Nearly 2 straight seasons of Theo Hernandez being subpar for the standard that he should be having, which is one of the, and if not the best left back in the world, hasn't come close to showing that. And today was another example as to why. Theo Hernandez, in these moments, will start with the yellow card to start. Absolutely unnecessary. For what reason is he grabbing a player's jersey like that and receiving the yellow card? Absolutely no reason to be doing that. In what moment? This isn't a clear breakaway where Giorgio Chiellini is grabbing Bukayo Saka's kit to prevent them from winning Euro 2020. No, this guy's in the middle of the field. You have coverage defensively. You're picking up a yellow card. And forget about potentially being sent off after the fact, by the way. You're actually talking about being suspended for the first leg if you were to advance. So he had already put the team in a huge negative with just that yellow card alone. Forget about the second yellow. Forget about that for a second. He put them in a terrible position even if they were to advance. And was it even necessary? No. There's so many times where you look at a player like, okay, he had to pick up the yellow card. It could be extenuating circumstances that a teammate gave away a ball, led to a counterattack. That could have been a clear chance on goal, and said player had to pick up a yellow card. There's other instances across the sport where you could see and justify yellow cards. This first one was inexcusable. And then we'll get to the second one right now. There's this thing called VAR. It's controlled by cameras. VAR has tons of angles all over the pitch and where they could see incidents happen for, I don't know, a potential penalty that Theo thought he could get when he wasn't hit, where he just dove in thin air on a yellow card, already suspended for the first leg, in a match where they are tied. They're not even through yet. Him getting sent off was the most pathetic and disgraceful moment in his Milan career. And there's been a lot of people defending him for how great of a player he's been in the past. I ask you all to look at the present and recent past. This is nowhere near the player that Milan need in order to reach the heights that they want to reach. He's nowhere near it. He's nowhere near those standards. He has routinely showed that he is declining physically, not drastically, but he is declining physically. And when your game is predicated on speed and your pace, you cannot be coming out like this on a decline where you are flawed defensively, where you have issues defending on a consistent basis. You're man marking. You're trying to catch up to players because of your speed. Your speed almost becomes a crutch at that point because you're just leaning on it and expecting your speed to make up for some of your mistakes. That speed will fade. That intelligence, that man marking ability, that won't ever get better. You plateau very easily. And now when Theo Hernandez is in a position like this, he's going to be more pressed to try and produce offensively, which is a part of a modern fullback's job, but at the same time is not the sole purpose of a defender. And when you're not producing offensively, when you're not creating at a high rate, you start to become more of a liability for your team if you're not a great defender. He has routinely showed over the past 2 seasons to have a poor attitude. He has routinely showed that he is way too inconsistent of a defender to be asking for a serious and drastic pay increase. Theo Hernandez was once the best left back in the world. He has not been that for over 12 months now. And I am someone who is willing to defend players for their great play. There's nothing to defend here. Nothing about what he has done can help us. It just absolutely disgraceful by him, disappointing by him. No one should be happy. No one should be defending him. And it put Milan in a terrible position to advance to the next round. How much harder it was to chase the game and to advance when you're down a man, defensively even. Where Pavlovic and Bartezaghi, blame whoever you want on that one. Bartezaghi not doing a good enough job in terms of marking. Pavlovic not doing a good enough job communicating on who to mark. Did it matter when you're down a man? Does it matter? It becomes that much more difficult. And this is all his fault. That's what it stems from. It's a domino effect. What are the defenders supposed to do when you're down a man like that? You put him in that position. And now there's other players to blame, sure, or people to blame. I see comments rolling in about Sergio Conceição. Sergio Conceição, I agree to an extent on some people talking about subs. Why is Santi Jimenez off? Agree. I understand that. I don't understand why there was a gap in between having a striker or not having a striker on. But you know what? Manager is forced to make bad decisions now, or the odds of him making a bad decision are greatly increased because of this genius getting the red card. This absolute stunad who thinks that he made the correct decision. Both were completely avoidable yellows. Both were unnecessary yellows. Both had cost his team in the short and long term. And now Milan not only going to be chasing to try and get back into the top four, which is increasingly difficult after Juventus's win over the weekend against Inter, where they're playing very well. Lazio are still good. Fiorentina are still good. Then Atalanta, Napoli, and Inter are not going to be falling there. Milan have to nearly be perfect the rest of the season to make it back into the Champions League in the top four. Because you guess what? Guess what? That fifth spot for the UEFA coefficient, wave goodbye. Wave goodbye, everybody. You're basically hoping and sitting there waiting that, and I believe what somebody was saying, that Atalanta is in a difficult position here. I'm not too sure what the score is there. Atalanta's down 3-1. So even kiss that coefficient even further goodbye, because they are not coming back down from 3-1 here. I mean, they're in a really difficult spot. Never say never. Atalanta have talent, but oh my goodness. And then you're going to have to see what Juve could do. Juve likely to advance, but even then, Juve risk facing Inter potentially. So then you're asking Inter and Juve to go further into the Champions League. Juve would have to then face Arsenal, which I think they have the possibility or the potential to knock them out. But this is one of the biggest stains in recent Milan history. This is one of the most pathetic and disappointing seasons in the team's history. The fact that we're supposed to be sitting here talking about a team that should be clearly advancing to the next round, shouldn't even have been thinking about it. We bought their striker. And he scored, and we still lost. Do you understand that? They fired their manager. Still couldn't beat them. You tell me when this stops. People are like, management have to figure this out. Motherfucker, management is the problem. They're the ones who caused this. They're part of it. They're going to fix it. They're going to fix their own mess. It's like when Kevin in the office spills his chili everywhere. There's no one to blame but you. You did it. You caused this. You sacked the management. You sacked Maldini. You thought getting rid of him was great. Look what you did. You spend all this money. I don't care if it's net spend. I don't care if you're doing good business. You're making the team actively worse. Manager, the correct manager hired mid-season. Oh, manager, we're in a deep hole in this spot, and that spot. You need to dig us out of it. If you don't, I don't know. You're probably going to have to take the blame. Probably going to have to be the meat shield for us. So people then start to blame the new manager. The one that they hired initially was a disaster. So that's all their fault, but they don't want to blame that. And I don't even want to hear if Pioli apologists come in here. Pioli apologists there's nothing to toot your horn about, because there isn't a Pioli guy, a Conceição guy, a Fonseca guy, a this guy or that guy. It's Milan or nothing. And if you don't understand that, then you shouldn't be rooting for this club, because you have to hold everyone accountable. That's the problem. People like to pick and choose who they want to blame. And this is exactly what I was talking about at the end of last podcast. And I was trying to beat this point through to a lot of people. And a lot of people hopefully understood where I was coming from. At a certain point where people were trying to blame Conceição for today are the exact people that I was calling out yesterday on the pod, or the other day on the podcast. Because one, it's okay to blame the manager for certain things, like I had just said on Conceição. But there becomes a point into where we've seen a common denominator of 3 straight managers, multiple managements, and basically the same players on the pitch right now. When are they being held accountable? Why is Theo Hernandez. Oh, poor Theo Hernandez. He's not as happy because Paolo Maldini isn't there anymore. You're a grown-ass man making millions of dollars. Grow up, please. You don't need somebody to hold your hand to make you feel better about stuff. It's pathetic. It really is. You don't, before, during, and after with Paolo Maldini, you should be putting out your best. You should be doing your best. There are no excuses for that. I am sick and tired of the defense of certain players because they won a trophy here 3 years ago. Most of them are gone, by the way, which is what I've been also trying to explain. Like, they're gone. These guys are not here. And again, when we're sitting here talking about all these sorts of things where we're like, hey, like Milan, if they could do this, they could do. There's too many ifs, too many coulda, woulda, shouldas. Proper clubs, the top clubs, they don't do this. They don't operate like this. And this is exactly why every single time I get invited onto podcasts on other channels to discuss the situation at the club, I try and put on a face for everybody here. I don't speak for everyone. I know that. I know that's very well known. I don't speak for anyone. I speak for myself. Matt, on occasion in the podcast, I give my points. I like to think a lot of you agree with me, and I know a lot of you do. But I just, how can you sit here, supposedly be a fan of this club, and not attack the players in a respectful football way? Guys, do not go out on social media, get angry at them, insult them. Don't do any of that, okay? It's not necessary. It's not classy. That's not what fans are supposed to do. But I'm also saying hold them accountable. Hold them accountable for this. The red card was deserved. Both yellow cards were deserved. Milan being eliminated was deserved because of what they did in that first leg and how Theo put them in this position in this leg. It is impossible to defend any of this. And it starts with Jerry Cardinale at the top, and it goes down to the management, to the manager, to an extent, because he just got here. It's hard to blame him, and most of the players. And the people who it took them a while to sort of see this, and there were people who were against Redbird immediately. I understand that. There's certain things that you could take away and this and that. Milan is suffering regardless. The club is suffering. You tell me if they're closer to an 8th Champions League today than they were 3 years ago when they won the title. And everyone is going to be with the same answer. Right? And it's not closer. Further away. You're playing shoots and ladders. You just went down a chute. You might be back at square one. But there's plenty of talent on this team, and the finances are good to say that. They're not close. They're not close. Young Hancho, everyone's speculating about stuff off the pitch. I'm not speculating stuff off the pitch. We all go through really difficult moments in life. And if it's too overwhelming for said person and it's too much on the pitch, then you shouldn't be doing your job. You take a leave of absence. And I'm not saying I don't believe Theo or whatever, any of that. Say he hasn't even come out to say anything like that. It's pure speculation to say what's happening off the pitch. No one knows. All I know is that he's fit enough. He's starting for AC Milan, and he's playing like shit. And he's not only playing like shit, he's playing embarrassingly. He's putting his team in the most pathetic spot I've ever seen them in. Okay, that's not true. But relative to expectation, no. This is, without a doubt, the most deflating type of season that I can remember from this club. With the expectations, with the talent. And I didn't even really have high expectations. I didn't expect to win the title. I didn't expect to win any trophy this year. To be quite honest with you, I thought they could have done better prior to the transfer market ending. It's sad. It's sad, and I'm not even one to like cry or get upset over this sort of stuff. I cry more when we win than when we lose. When we lose, I'm like this. And I'm rarely like this. You guys know how I am for the most part. I am more like disappointed, deflated, depressed than anything. And I'm not even that down on myself because I still think, even in the lowest of moments like today, that this club can get back and win an 8th Champions League. I think they can do that. I think they don't have the right owners for it. I don't think they have the right management for it. And quite a few of the players are not up to it, and they're not good enough. For me, something needs to drastically change, and you could look at the podcast that we've done with Enrico Silverstone. You could look at all the other podcasts that we have done. Okay? We need real leaders, real owners that know how to take this situation by the balls and fix it. This club is too big. This club is too great. And some of the players are too talented to allow this to happen. I'm not saying they should win every year. No. But Milan shouldn't be in 7th place. Milan shouldn't be getting knocked out against Feyenoord. They shouldn't be doing a lot of things. This is one of the ultimate stains on the club's legacy. And this is ultimately falling upon the owner and Jerry Cardinale. So with that, I need to take a breath for a second while your messages filter on through. You guys can go and like up the video. There's over 300 of you. Look at that. Look at that. We got a record. We got a record. Look, we got a record amount of viewers in here. Oh, wow. What happened, Martino? It must have been something incredible today to get to over 300 live viewers. What happened? Oh, Milan got screwed out of the Champions League by their own players. Good job. Round of applause, right? But truthfully, I do thank all of you for being in here. It's great. It's a lot of fun. A lot of work that Matt and I do. Well, it's not fun right now. This is fucking miserable. Excuse my language. Atalanta really down in that, huh? Let's see. I'm also searching Twitter right now. Probably a bad idea, right? Excuse me? Hey, Alexis. Alexis, I got something for you. Shove it up your ass, buddy. Professional, not professional, shove it up your ass. Okay? That type of fucking disgraceful comment. Get the fuck out of here. You're banned from the channel. Losers. Absolute losers. You come in with disgraceful comments like that, get the fuck out. Who the fuck do you think you are? Pavlovic was really good today, Brian. Like, what are we doing here? Walker was like, what are we talking about? I'm not gonna blame the defenders here when we literally were down a man. Like, come on now. What are we talking about? Like, can we think for a moment? Can we think? Please. Brian, I'm not trying to be rude, but like, what are we talking about? And the comments made by that moron that I banned from the channel are just wildly offensive shit. So I'm not even going to bring up what he said, but I gave him the finger before he was gone. By the way, hold Theo Hernandez to a higher standard and critique him, criticize him more as much as you would Leao for different shit. The Fiorentina match, Theo Hernandez not criticized enough for that garbage. Rafael Leao gets criticized for the most absurd things all the time. And it's just, to me, it's pathetic. To me, it's pathetic where people pick and choose what their standards are. I mean, just really disappointing on so many levels. Let's see. No. Just silly. Sorry, I'm reading a bunch of comments on top of yours being filtered in here, guys. So if you go and look at the podcast with Enrico believes Milan will be sold in June. I'm not convincing with that. I don't necessarily think that um, that this club has really. I think Jerry has to sell eventually. Like I'm not saying like he's going to. I think he has to because he has no excuses. No excuses. I mean, just like there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to go with this. And he is hurting Milan's value at the end of the day. That's like the crazy part in this entirety is that he wasn't good enough. I'm tired too, Michael. Guys, listen, Pulisic did okay. I'm not by the way, I've been a Milanista for over 20 years. I'm American, Italian American. I root for the US men's national team. I root for the Azzurri. If you come in here with this energy of rooting for a player above the club and you're arguing with each other over that, please stop and please go. I don't want that. I don't want any of that. If you're here, you like Milan. You want to follow Pulisic, you want to follow Musa. That's all and well. If you're respectful, I don't mind. But like, we're here for the club. Don't mix or misconstrue my accent and the way I talk with being a U.S. men's national team fan first. That's last in my priorities. This is Milan through and through. I've seen some of the worst teams in the club's history, stuck it out, been doing podcasts on them for a decade now. Like, listen to me. Trust me. Okay. Like, I am here for them. I don't want to do this, oh, Pulisic and fighting and then, please. Okay. Because I see it sometimes. And Pulisic is a phenomenal player. I think most Milanisti should like him, or all Milanisti, right? I don't think he's players have bad games. Absolutely, players are not perfect like him. But this whole thing, calma, okay? This is Milan. This isn't USA men's national team. This isn't I'm pushing agendas for said player, or that player. Please, okay? We're just trying to root for the club here and that's what we care about most. Otherwise, what are we doing here? It's just spearheading this all sort of stuff. And for Milan, this becomes increasingly difficult in terms of trying to figure out um, how to become a superpower again. And there's things that they can do in order to fix that, and there's other things that are preventing them from doing so. And the biggest and most difficult one is ownership. How do you get rid of ownership, right? I am thoroughly disappointed in this club and these players, in particular Theo. And I don't even want to. I'm not even here to take this victory lap. Atalanta, it's worse. I've just gotten more texts. Oh, jeez. I mean, this is more pathetic from Atalanta, to be honest with you. We're just as pathetic in a different way. Jesus. Well, with this ownership, Ruby, it's not happening. We have some quality, not so much. We have some quality. Some quality, fellas and ladies. Do you think Milan makes top four? No. No, Iron Kai, I do not. The most important news that Milan could hope and expect as a new owner comes in within the next 4 to 5 months. So that's essentially that. Really. Like it's unfortunately the truth for it. Um I don't see any other avenue. I mean, it would have to also require Jerry just waking the hell up, hiring brand new management. That is great and well respected, but that requires him doing a great job. Also, with that, we're talking about. Excuse me, sorry, I'm drawing a blank now. Because I was just reading something. Oh yeah, that would require him hiring the right management and directors, and those directors ultimately, at the end of the day, are gonna have to be um, great within Italy. Bologna Sartori, he's extended over there. It's been said that Atletico's director is not joining Milan. So where are we looking? Who wants this job? Who wants to work with Jerry? Who wants to work with these people? You know, when you go and you get a job and you're told on, oh, you could work here. This is how we do things. Or you see from the outside in on how Milan, an institution, does things and how they've treated people in recent years and how they go about things. What makes you think they want this job? Someone of high respect, high quality. Why would they want to join? The owner's barely here. Zlatan is a talking piece. What's his job? No one knows. One day he's the guy making all the comments pre and post game. The next day he's in Austria watching skiing. What's his job? What's he doing? So many people to look and point at and blame, and it's pathetic. It's pathetic, and this is really a disappointing sort of match and tie for them. Just truthfully, I don't know how people can sit there and say anything different. And yeah, no problem for doing this. I think I'm kind of running out of things to talk about and discuss. Ultimately, there isn't much left to do. I appreciate everyone who's hopped in terms of viewing this live. We had over 300 of you. It's a great number. We really appreciate all of you that support us. Again, we're on Apple and Spotify to check out that Milan podcast. I'm going to be going on Milan Fan TV tonight. If you guys are big fans of TikTok and TikTok stars, head on there, go and talk about that. I'm gonna go have to make a TikTok in just a moment discussing on what happened, and I'll probably cut up a clip from this and post it. Again, guys, there's better days ahead. It could get worse before it gets better. I won't deny that. But again, appreciate all you guys, truthfully. And I hope this was a good enough venting process. It's impossible to post everything, so chat is chat, and that's a good, healthy thing. And again, I try and be here and try and be live as often and as possible as I can alongside Matt. And again, guys, let me know all sorts of feedback if you're capable of giving that. Let us know if you like the content, like how I conduct some of these lives. Some of these lives are really difficult in a way to talk, but I've managed to ramble for 36 minutes. It's something I've always been capable of doing. So, um, again, yeah, just like, subscribe if you haven't. And also, there was a donation made, or someone dropped a subscription. It was Mohammed. So, Mohammed, thank you for that, for joining as a member. Memberships are $1. It's really just to support Matt and myself to fund some of the programs that we use here. So, again, yeah. Thank you guys so much, and take care.